Hi, my name is Nicole.
My name is Shao.
And my name is Ainsley, and
welcome to the Dope Student Podcast. Can you briefly introduce yourself and tell us what led you to becoming an education author and innovator?
My name is Trey Hadrick. I'm a school counselor, Central Monaco Technical High School. I'm also on the State Board of Education. I'm a father, and I've been in education for about 15 years. I did middle school for a while, for about 10 years, so I love this space. I think what you're doing here is amazing. And what led me to be an educator, besides being a student athlete and having coaches and individuals influencing me to help me, is my parents were both educators. They're both retired educators. My mother was for 36 years. My father was for about 30 years. And the influence that they had on students and in the community with their career, I felt like that was something I would want to do myself.
How did watching your parents as retired educators influence your decision to pursue a career in education?
I just watched, honestly, the other day on social media, one of my mother's former students, they were doing like a throwback picture where they had her old middle school picture, actually, and then the ladies went and took another picture, and they just saw the influence. So I shared a picture and say, I think my mom might have been your teacher. And there was tears coming down, right? So you understand the influence. It's just like Mr. Jarrett, right, what he does for you all. One day you're going to look back and be like, wow, look at the influence that he had on my life, right? And you don't understand it now, but you'll understand it one day. And it's just that powerful. And I think there's nothing more powerful than human connection.
Can you share a bit about your career journey, including key milestones and challenges you faced along the way?
Start with challenges. There's always going to be challenges. I've faced all types of things. People underestimating you, not believing in you, questioning yourself, self-judgment. And I face that, often, right? That's just what it's going to be in life, right? And we're taught how to overcome that and be better no matter what. As far as some of my career milestones, I was blessed to do a TED Talk. I wrote 2 children's books so far, Cheesesteaks Clippers, which I'm going to leave with you all today here for your school. Just talks about the power of the barbershop and the community and, some relative facts to the Philadelphia area. I'm from Norristown, so I put some things in there as well. I was an adjunct professor at Villanova for 4 years, coached football, helped people with literacy, so I've done quite a few things.
What unique perspectives do you bring to the podcast as someone who has experienced education holistically from K to 12?
I think one of the things that I bring to the podcast today is just my overall view of education, not just from the local level, also from the state level. There's a big push about CTE and everything you're doing here in your school and in your classroom, throughout the state. And I think, sitting here talking to you all today, seeing all the hard work that's being done in your shop is amazing, right? And you're only in middle school, right? Everybody here is in 8th grade, I believe, or some 7th to 8th grade. I mean, doing what you're doing here, I've witnessed things online and saw the things you're doing. It's unbelievable, and it just brings to me the light that we can do this everywhere.
Could you tell us more about your children's book series, Cheesesteaks and Clippers, and what inspired you to write these books?
These books, which I mentioned a little earlier, that I have here today, both of them, is 2 in the series so far. It's actually a 3rd one coming out about mental health. The first one just talks about the barbershop and what lessons you learn in the barbershop. It doesn't even talk about getting a haircut. It talks about respect. It talks about protection of women. It talks about, understanding your history, many different things. It's a great story here. And then my son is the main character in the story. And then the second one is about financial literacy. So just teaching us how to recirculate the dollar within our community, because a lot of times we're not taught that, and it just talks about how we can save, share, and spend, those 3 things to make sure people know how to do that in our community.
You mentioned a particular passion for the U.S. job ratio 1-to-7 and literacy. Could you elaborate on why these topics are so important to you?
Sure. As we spoke earlier about career tech education and the space you're in right now, the 1-to-7 job ratio, which many people don't talk about, right? Some of your educators are still learning. I learned that recently myself. But if you look at 10 jobs in our economy, like any 10 jobs, out of those 10 jobs, only one of those jobs needs a master's degree or higher, right? 2 of those jobs need a bachelor's or higher, which is only 3 total with a bachelor's. And 6.5, 7 need a certificate or some type of training, right? And that's the economy in itself, not based upon income, based upon availability. So that's really passionate for me to make sure we understand that, because often we're talking about well, I need a degree, but it's about income, right? About what you can do financially. And then if you look at that ratio, it teaches you so much more. As far as literacy, it's one of my passions. I started some things with a group of friends of mine. We called ourselves the Lit Champs. And we try to fight for childhood early literacy opportunities to teach kids about the codable books, the 44 sounds of the alphabet. So it's something big. We know words are everywhere. And if you can't read, it's very hard to succeed in this society.
If students could design their own K-12 educational experience, what do you think it should look like and why?
I guess that would be a question for y'all. Let me throw it back on you. What would you like to see from the experience y'all have so far in 7th and 8th grade? What are some things you would like to see that all students should probably have in education?
That all students should be
like
able
experience.
to
A CTE program.
CTE program,
Yeah,
definitely.
Awesome.
Like, I feel like without this program that we have in Mr. Jarrett, I probably would not know what I wanted to do for my future now. And being in this program is it changes your mind in many different ways, and it gives you many different experiences.
Wow. Same thing?
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts, just to add lib on that? Same
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, I mean, I think, and I agree, right? I think exposure to a CTE program, all students, right? K through 12, if not definitely in middle school, right? It's nothing different from being exposed to algebra, right? Like, it's just an exposure moment. But what you get from this, and I see what you all are doing on social media, which is unbelievable, right? I mean, I've shared it. I've talked about it at the state level. This is amazing things happening here at Mayfair Elementary. But I agree with you all that CTE exposure would be the best thing for all kids.
What do you believe are the most crucial aspects of education that students should be aware of, especially in the context of taking advantage or opportunities in the K-12 space?
I think we need to teach people how to get involved more and take advantage of all opportunities, right? Because even though we call it public education and it's free to what people say, but it's still based upon tax dollars, right? So it is someone paying for this, and it's your families. It doesn't matter if you own, if you rent, you put money into the economy that pays for education. And I think we don't often take advantage of all the opportunities that are offered, right? After school clubs, sports, CTE opportunities. I just think we have to take more advantage of that and know that, and so we can be prepared when it's time to graduate high school for all our options of life.
How do you think exposure to real-world experiences can benefit students in their education and career choices?
I think a lot of people, depending on their family dynamics, where they're from, what they've been exposed to or not have been exposed to, I think the school plays a heavy part in allowing them to see more, right? Because I can't guarantee what you have been exposed to, but I guarantee I have you during this amount of time while you're in my setting and in my school that I can find people to come and talk to you and expose you to more than what you know, right? It's not better, it's not worse, it's just giving you more exposure. So I think the school plays a heavy part in exposing all of us to more than what we know on a surface lens.
What advice do you have for students who are considering a career in education?
I think, one thing in general is students should get involved in volunteering. I know there's a lot of summer camps. I know there's a lot of, daycares and different places they can learn how to first just work with kids, right? Also, I know in our CTE space, as you get into high school, they're working on teacher programs, so you can learn how to be a teacher. At my school in general, they have a teacher academy. It's going to be called Secondary Education Academy going forward. But within that space, they go out and do internships at local schools, right? So like if you were in high school, you would go and do an internship maybe at like Mayfair Elementary, right? And now you're going and presenting like how Mr. Jarrett does or other teachers you have to those students, and you're working with those students. So I think that's a way to really get involved in education, but also learning the technology that's out here and not being afraid of it.
Can you share any memorable experiences or lessons you've learned from interacting with students from over the years?
Oh man, many. That's a big question there. I've been working, like I said, 15 years, give or take, in education. I also worked 6 years as a secure detention counselor. So I saw both sides of education with juvenile justice system as well. But I think one of my most memorable experiences is I had a student who knew like a million things about trains and all the system, the Amtrak and everything as such. And he one day I was recording him because he was talking about, he's only in 5th grade. He said, but I've never been on a train before. I've never been on Amtrak. So I took a chance of recording his story, and we put it on social media. And he and his mother were given a free trip on Amtrak from Philadelphia to Washington, D.C. Someone paid for it. They were able to experience D.C. for a little bit, and then stayed overnight, and then came back to Philadelphia area and back to Norristown. So that's one of my most memorable opportunities. Didn't cost anything but a video.
Last question. As a former Division I football player, do you have any fun or interesting stories from your time in sports that you think our listeners might enjoy?
Oh, man, definitely. I was blessed. I went to, out of high school, I went to Auburn University. I was a preferred walk-on, as they call it now, invited walk-on. On the football team, I redshirted for 1 year. I was there. We went to a bowl game. I have a ring. I have 2 college rings from there. I transferred and went to North Carolina A&T Technical State University. Played there. I was a fullback. Had concussions, unfortunately, so I know everybody's talking about the CTE of the other CTE, and I was in that space as well. But my memories of that were just, priceless. It was just a dream to play Division I sports, and I was able to accomplish that. And I came away with 2 rings and a degree, and no complaints.
All right. Before we end off, we would like to ask, is there any social media pages where we could reach you out on, or anyone?
Sure. I'm on X, as they call it, Twitter, formerly Instagram, as well as Facebook and LinkedIn. If you look up Trey Hadrick, you'll find my information, as well as at Mr. MRLIT EDU, Mr. Lit EDU. That's where you can find me on all social media platforms.
We would like to thank Trey Hadrick for coming out to the Dope Student Podcast. Thank you so much for watching another episode of the Dope Student Podcast.
I got one more thing for you.
Yeah, sure.
Just so you can see how loyal I am to the Mayfair CTE, we make sure we show the truth, right? And show that I'm all the way in.